quick graph y equals 1/2 raised to the x power minus 1 by hand 2 different ways. This is part of the family of functions series. The first way we're going to do this is using the 1/2 to the x dance. And we know that y equals 1/2 to the x has an asymptote at y equals 0. But because of the minus 1, we realize we have to shift all the points down, including that asymptote. So our asymptote will be at y equals -1. Also, because of the minus 1, the new origin is now going to be down 1 at 0, -1. And all points will be plotted relative to what I'm calling this new origin that's in orange. The initial point will be at right 0 up 1 because 1/2 raised to the 0 power is equal to 1. From there, right 1 up 1/2 because 1/2 raised to the first power will be 1/2. Right 2 up 1/4, 1/2 squared is 1/4. And right 3 up 1/8 because 1/2 cubed is 1/8. Going in the negative direction, left 1 up 2, 1/2 raised to the -1 means take the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2. Left 2 up 4 means take the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2, and then square it to get the 4. And left 3 up 8, because 1/2 raised to the -3rd power will be the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2, and then 2 cubed is 8. We already have the asymptote, so we can go ahead and connect the points and get the graph of y equals 1/2 raised to the x power minus 1. Comparing that to the parent function, we can see from going blue to green, you go down 1 from that point, down 1 from that point, in fact, down 1 from each point. A second way would be using a table. So we'll start with these 7 points from y equals 1/2 to the x power. So we're going to subtract 1 from each of the y coordinates, because that's what it says to do in the equation. So when I take 1/8 minus 1, I'm going to have to think of that 1 as 8/8. So 1/8 minus 8/8 would be -7/8. And so I'll plot the point 3, -7/8. 1/4 minus 1, 1/4 minus 4/4 would be -3/4. So over 2 and down 3/4. 1/2 minus 1 would be 1/2 minus 2/2, which is -1/2. So over 1, down 1/2. 1 minus 1 is 0. So the origin will actually be a point on this new graph. 2 minus 1 is 1, -1, 1. 4 minus 1 is 3, -2, 3. And 8 minus 1 is 7, -3, 7. We should draw in the asymptote, which will be at y equals -1 because of the equation. And connecting the points, we get this exponential curve. And we can compare this to the parent function y equals 1/2 to the x.